Hello, welcome to Keyboard Harmony. We are all the way into week 4. I've started grading this morning oh, that's not gonna work. Oh, maybe. I'm trying to find a good lighting here. I started grading your video 3 assignments, and I noticed a trend with some people and something that I think is important to talk about. So I'm going to talk about that quickly. So when you are playing chords, no matter what kind of chords they are, so this week we were doing minor chord progressions, right? I noticed with a handful of people that they were locking their wrist, not allowing it to move, but not even just not allowing it to move, but keeping it very stiff. Which causes tension, which also causes pain. So I've had a couple people reach out saying, I've had some pain practicing these chords. So like, what can I do? So here's what you do if you're experiencing pain, and if you're not experiencing pain, do this anyway. So what you want to be doing is whenever you move to a new chord, don't lock up your wrist, don't freeze this. So notice how I'm just moving my fingers. I want to keep my wrist loose while I'm moving, and it's hard to tell from this angle, but I'm literally doing just a slight bounce with my wrist. So it looks like this: bounce, bounce. So don't keep it really, really tight. The other thing is allow your pinky to move. I notice some people want to keep their pinky clear back here at the edge, which again is causing, just from even without playing, if I keep my pinky back here, I get this weird like claw shape. And if any of you want to try this really quickly, what I'm feeling is immediate tension all the way through whatever these are, tendons, I don't know. I don't know anything about anatomy. I just know how it feels. So if you're feeling that at all, that means you need to allow your pinky to move more naturally instead of trying to stay in the back, clear back here on the keys. The other thing is, with pretty much all these exercises, you have black keys. So you need to adjust to the black key. So if we're in A minor, when we play our 5-7 chord, we need to get this G sharp. If you try to play that G sharp without moving your hand, as soon as I do that, I immediately feel tension all the way up through my arm and into my shoulders. So instead, pick up your hand and put it in a position where you can easily reach black keys. So these short, my thumb and my 5th finger, it's hard to reach without physically moving my hand. So 2 ways of doing this. This is the way I do it. It's not necessarily the best way, but I move from here forward and back. That feels most natural to me. One way that will save you movement is start further in the keys. So you're not doing this thing, which I think is okay. I hope it's okay because I do it. But make sure you're allowing your wrists to move naturally to avoid pain or tension of any kind. I only have a couple people here, but the people that are here, did you have any questions from last week or about anything that you want me to answer before I jump into doing stuff for this week? Okay, I have a nope, so I'm gonna move on. So this week, it's a lot shorter. Compared to what you've been doing, especially last week where you had like a billion scales, or chord progression, sorry. This week you have 2 scales and then an accompaniment with a melody and then an actual like piece of music, right hand and left hand written out. So we'll start with your scale. We're doing first B harmonic minor. This is helpful. They give you the key signature. So we have 2 sharps and we have the 7th note raised to an A sharp. Something you want to be cautious of when you're doing this, make sure you're watching your fingering. So we have like our kind of standard fingering. So if you think C major standard fingering, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then opposite for your left hand, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. That's kind of like the standard fingering. These will not necessarily follow those, so you don't want to assume that they will. So if you guys feel comfortable with your major scales, just remember that when you do pretty much any of the harmonic minor scales, you'll use the parallel fingering for the major scale. So parallel means they start on the same note but have a different collection of pitches. So the key signature is different, but the tonic or the starting note is the same. So if you know how to play a B major scale, you just adjust the notes but keep the same fingering. That's what I'm getting at. So to walk you through this, right hand uses that traditional expected fingering that we talked about, the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then so on. Left hand is different. It starts on a 4. And this is really important to notice, because if you were to start on a 5 and play this scale, this is what would happen. Thumb on a black key. That's an immediate no-no in almost every situation. I mean, except for chords and some arpeggios. But the reason we don't want a thumb on this black key, crossing from a white key to a black key is already kind of difficult, but when you're doing it from a thumb to a different finger, it's even harder. The other reason is, just like we were talking about, you have to adjust clear up here. But, which isn't always a bad thing. If you have to do it to avoid pain or whatever, that's what you want to do. But if that's not something that you need to do, we're going to go with the easier route, which is to start with a 4. So that allows me to cross without going like forward and backward. The other thing I want to point out about scales is don't lock your wrist up, just like we were talking earlier, but you also don't want it going like this. So a bad example of how to play this would be something like this. So did you see that twist? And I want to avoid that twist. I also want to avoid reaching. So I'm going to slide my hand forward. This is a hard thing. So do your best. But if you are having pain, reach out to me right away so we can resolve that. Okay. Grab your keyboard if you have it. If you don't have it, you get it. This is so much better if you can practice it along with me. I'm going to slow the metronome down to 90 to do B harmonic minor scale fingering 4 3 2 1 4 3 2 1 in your left hand, and then we have 3 2 1 4 3 2 1. Well, let's play this first, and then I will point something out. Okay, so 90 with the metronome, B harmonic minor.
1, 2, set, go.
Okay, so the thing I wanted to point out, if you have your fingerings memorized, that's great. It's a really helpful thing to do. But sometimes the easier thing to do is just to know what shape you're looking for. And in B harmonic minor scale, I am looking for a specific kind of weird shape. And it's this. It's that F sharp, G, A sharp. That's what makes this harmonic, that G to A sharp, G natural to A sharp. And I'm looking for this shape. So notice I'm using my 3 middle fingers. So if I'm watching that, my other fingers just kind of naturally align. With my left hand especially, I remember that I'm starting with a 4 on F sharp to make that shape, which reminds me that I have a 3 next. So yeah, that's just what I'm watching for in that. Next is B harmonic, oh goodness, not again. B minor arpeggio, which is the same as the other arpeggios you've done. There's nothing weird about this one. The shape is a little awkward because you have 2 white keys and a black key. It's not necessarily awkward, it's just kind of new. So let's play through B minor arpeggio. Again, I've slowed down to 90. And here we go.
1, set.
sure I talked about this last week, but I'll bring it up really quickly right here. When you're doing your arpeggios, don't worry about connecting them, because if you're going to connect them perfectly, you're going to get this swing, which means you have to reset. So it's a waste of time and it can be not helpful. So instead, tuck your thumb mine goes about to my fourth finger, the middle of my fourth finger before I let go. And then I release, but I keep the same, I keep the same motion going. I'm not twisting or turning. Which does leave a little bit of a gap. But my left hand, if I do the same thing, my gaps happen at different times. Oh my gosh, I keep missing that B. So it's less noticeable. So even if you guys are playing these one hand at a time, I still don't want you to try and connect it using your fingers. If that drives you crazy and you have a pedal, you can put your pedal down. If you want that. I personally don't care that much. Like, don't care for it, don't care not for it. Okay, so next we are doing F harmonic minor scale. And again, this is one of those weird fingerings to watch out for. Left hand is standard. Same groupings that we've been working with. Right hand starts with a group of 4, and that's because this is like the best example of this. You're going from A flat to B flat, and if you use traditional fingering, you're going to end up with this. So you're crossing from a black key to a black key with a thumb on there. It's insane. Like, it's so uncomfortable. So instead we switch to a 4, which is super natural. So if you want to compare those, it makes it much more obvious why we've changed this. I think the main thing I would be watching for this for myself is making sure I have a 4 on B flat and my thumb on F. Those are kind of the two things I'm watching for. So there's my 4. There's my thumb and my 4. Those would be the things I'm watching for in my right hand. In my left hand, I don't really have anything in particular I watch for. I just I like the way it feels. And so I don't think about it too much, but I would suggest, if you don't just naturally connect with this, pick like 1 or 2 notes that you're watching for that align with specific fingers. So that's what I would suggest. Okay, let's play through F harmonic minor. Oh, I didn't mean to share my screen. And we're going to do this at 90 again. You guys can slow these down to whatever tempos you want, or speed them up, or keep them the same, or play without piano marble, but whatever you choose. Okay, F harmonic minor scale.
1, 2, set, go.
Okay, that's the whole scale. Let's move on to the arpeggio, which again, pretty normal here. For the left hand, they say to do 5, 4, 2, 1, which is fine with your left hand if you use a 4 or a 3. I'm more used to using a 3 because I just generally put a 3 on black keys and a 4 on white keys, but do it the way that's comfortable for you. So I'm going to switch to a 3 instead of a 4. Okay, F minor arpeggio at 90.
1, set, go.
Okay, before we move on to the last 2 pages in this week's video, I want to make a suggestion that when you practice your technique, that you practice loud and loose. So you don't want to tighten anything, not your wrist, not your elbows, not your shoulders, not your fingers. Keep everything loose, but play really loud. When you practice loud and slow as well, your fingers are they're able to remember more easily what they're playing. So instead of like this kind of timid playing, sometimes I don't even hear the notes I'm playing personally. But if I'm playing loud, I'm able to memorize more quickly based off of feeling how I play. The thing with playing loud that I think people are scared of, including myself, is making mistakes and hearing them more obviously. So don't be too concerned about that. And just, if you're going to make a mistake, make it loud. Just make sure you keep it loose. That would be my suggestion of practicing these things. Okay, so I don't know if this is just my issue, but whenever I play these little pieces they have in here, I have such a hard time starting correctly with the recording. And again, just like all the other ones I've done, this one is especially weird. I think it might have been like a technical error. So do your best getting started with this. What I would suggest for this piece, looking for patterns, is look for shared notes and things that are close together. So I'll start first with shared notes. And what I mean is I am looking at this right hand, and what I'm seeing is there are 2 notes in each measure that like go back and forth. 2 notes back and forth, 2 notes back and forth, 2 notes back and forth. And I'm seeing every single time that the bottom is staying on an F sharp. Like that's all that's happening. So basically all I need to watch for is this top note of the 2. So I see this is a B, B. It moves up to a C sharp and up to a D and down to an A sharp. So I'm just watching that. When I'm doing that, I'm also seeing I don't have to move my hand very much. I'm guessing you probably can't see my hand very well right now, but I have a 3, 4, 5, 3. So I can do all that without moving my hand, hardly at all. I look over here, I see almost the same thing. It's a new note, but it's repeating again on the bottom. And then we move up, down, and then we have this like A sharp thrown in there, and then a break from this pattern. And then again, even more than before, I have it backwards. Now the top note is staying the same through this whole line, while the bottom note is the one that changes. So that's what I mean watching for repeating notes. And for notes close together, I guess that was a combination because these are mostly moving by step. My left hand, all of that is just a half step apart and then a leap down. But if you follow these fingerings, I'm going to get rid of this and let you guys look at it yourself, but so you can see my fingerings. I'm starting on a 1 and 3, and then for me it's easier to go to 2 and 3 because 2 and 4, whatever feels more comfortable, just make a plan and do it. But when you get to the last measure of line 1, measure 4, I can move from a 1 and 3 to a 2 and 5. So watching those fingerings is helpful. And then at the end of measure 4, it says to switch to a 1 and 4, which makes the next one easy to play. And then I keep that. So that's what I'm watching for in my left hand, is how close things are together and what fingerings will help me be most successful at playing this. It's kind of weird, kind of hard. It took me a few tries just to figure out how to do this. I'm going to slow it down considerably, down to 45. It's at 52. I'm slowing it down to 45. And I will play it through for you. You can play along with me, just one hand or with both hands, whatever sounds good.
Go.
that's how you play it. Just to give you some of my things I noticed, my shortcuts. It's not very often that I play in 3/8, and I know how to play in 3/8, but I was really tripped up because I was assuming, never assume, that this was starting on beat 2, but this is a 16th note rest. And so really all we have is da 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 da. That's the rhythm the whole time. So you always have something going. All the way until the end of line 2, where it changes. There's always a 16th note rhythm, so that made that easier for me, just to know I would play my left hand, my right hand would fill in, and then my left hand would take over again. Another minor mistake, but you know, these are all great things to watch for. Something I didn't realize until halfway through. I was over holding these left hand notes, and what I mean is I was holding them basically until I played them again. So that sounds like this. But what it's asking me to do is this. We've been talking about I guess I didn't mention this, but whenever you are holding something, you don't want to press down and keep pressing. That's another issue I noticed with some people with the chords, is they would play their chord and then they would push down. But once you play it, you can't change the sound. It's happened already. So with these, keep them loose and don't overhold them. And after you do play them, don't push. I don't know if you can see that, but if I'm pushing, like all I'm doing is causing myself pain, and it's pointless. Okay, let's move on to the last page. Does anyone have questions so far about any of these things or anything else? Okay, I'll keep going. If you have questions, just interrupt me. Probably unmute your mic and interrupt me because you can't see the chat very well. Okay, so we have this cute little harmonization, which means we have a melody and we need to play the chords along with it. This is in lead sheet style, which means that the chords, typically this would be up here, but it's fine that it's down here. They give us the name of the chord instead of the symbol, so the symbol would be like a 4 chord or a 1 chord, you know, in Roman numerals. This is the actual name of the chord. Another thing I noticed in what I was grading from last week is a lot of people in the harmonization were playing the incorrect chords. They were playing the correct root, so they were playing a B, for example, but they weren't necessarily playing a minor chord. It might have been like just B and then 2/3 on top of that. So be careful of that because it completely changes things without that. So to go over the symbols really quickly, a lowercase m in this case means minor. There are different ways of doing this, but I think Piano Marvel is pretty consistent. So lowercase m tells you it's minor. There it is, minor again. There's not a lowercase m, that means it's a major chord. When you have a chord, so here D major / A, that means it's a D major chord with A as the lowest note. This is an F sharp 7 chord, so we have an F sharp major chord with a minor 3rd from C sharp to E, or you can think of it as a minor 7th from F sharp up to E. Or you can think of it as a whole step down from F sharp. There's a lot of ways to think about this. Over A sharp, I have a way to play that. That's much easier. So I'll walk you through all these chords before I play this for you. So have your Piano Marvel open if you want to look at this. But we start with a measure of B minor, which is just in root position. That means B is the lowest note. Okay, so next we have an E minor chord. There's not a slash telling us a different note is on the bottom. So I'm moving from B minor down to E minor. This is most comfortable for me. And we're keeping the same rhythm going. Next, is a D major chord, so that's D, F sharp, and A, but it says /A, so that means A is on the bottom, and we'll put D and F sharp on top. We only play half a bar of that, and then F sharp 7 over A sharp. That looks a little bit scary, but all I'm doing is moving my pinky up to A sharp and my second finger up to E. And that's just how I'm making my F sharp 7. If you want to add all the notes, the last note you would add would be the C sharp. The C sharp is not necessary. Just to get into the theory really quickly. So in order to tell that an F sharp 7, which means F sharp dominant 7, is what it is we have a major triad, minor 7th, like I said. So you have to have the root, otherwise we won't know what chord it is. You have to have the third, because if you don't have the third, this could imply major or minor. So we have to have the third. We do not have to have the fifth, because the fifth doesn't tell us anything important. The fifth doesn't change in this case. And we have to have the 7th, because you could either have a major 7th or a minor 7th, and that determines what kind of 7 chord it is. So anyway, that was a long explanation of stuff you don't necessarily need to know, but we can leave out the C sharp. So do this with me really quickly. Play your D over A. So memorize that shape. You have a 4th and a 3rd. And then F sharp 7 over A sharp. So those are pretty close. I would say get used to going back and forth between those, and then up to B minor. All really close. And on the second line, same thing. However you want to end that is fine. Okay, I will play through this. I will again slow it down to 90. That just seems like a good number. When you're practicing this, if you can't just sit down and play it and feel comfortable playing both hands at the same time, I would say use Piano Marvel and play along with it, but only play one hand at a time so that you can hear the context of what's going on, even if you're not playing the whole thing. But when you submit your assignment, it does have to be both hands playing together. Okay, here we go. Page 226A, all the pretty little horses. Let's do this.
1, 2, set, go.
I totally missed that F sharp 7. But the reason I missed it is because I was looking at measure 3. Planning out how to play this is a really good idea. They give a great fingering, but practicing this, specifically keeping fingering in mind. We're just going down 5 fingers and then crossing 2, 1. That makes this easier to play, and it sets you up to play the next measure. Okay, I want to try this one more time at tempo and try to get that chord again that I missed because I was distracted. Yeah, okay, I'll do this one more time.
1, 2, set, go.
Okay, so that is it. That's all it is. 2 scales, a harmonization, and then a piece to practice. Next week is a holiday. I can't remember which one. Is it President's Day? I think it's President's Day. Anyway, next Monday is a holiday, but I have a lesson during our class time. So what I'll do is record a video and upload it. It will be pretty much just like it is today. Email me with questions, or if you want to set up a time to practice anything, especially if you're having pain, email me and we can work it out together. It's kind of hard to know if you're doing it right without somebody telling you in real time. So reach out. I don't want you having any injuries or any suffering for any reason. So I'll have a video for you next week, but we will not be meeting as a class. So yeah, I'll post this. Please comment with your questions on the post because other people might have the same question and not even realize it. Okay, for the people here, do you have questions before I end the meeting? Okay, it looks like we're good today. Thanks for being here, and I hope you enjoy your long weekend, and I will see you guys in 2 weeks.